This train is quite simply the greatest way of getting to Amanohashidate, and today I'm going to share with you all the best bits of the journey, as well as some tips for a smooth trip. It's a cold start here in Kyoto, and despite heavy snowfall the previous day, the train is actually running, so let's go down to platform 31 to get ready. We'll be riding on the Hashidate Limited Express between Kyoto and Amanohashidate, and I'm taking the very first service at 8:38 in the morning. However, due to the heavy snow in the region, the train's slightly delayed coming into Kyoto station. Seems like it's had quite a journey already this morning by the looks of things. The first thing you should know about this train is that all seats are reserved, so unfortunately you can't just jump in a non-reserved car because there aren't any. So just make sure to book a seat beforehand if you're using a rail pass. The second thing, which I reckon is slightly more important, is that you can't buy food or drinks on the train. I know this is pretty much the norm except on some Shinkansen now, but when riding early in the morning, it's much more relaxing if you've got yourself a hot drink, especially in the winter. Luckily, there's a bunch of vending machines right there on the platform, and there's also a small kiosk you pass on the walk in from the ticket gates. So with that out of the way, let's get on and find our seat. I recommend sitting on the right for the journey up, as I think the scenery is best viewed from that side. To get out of Kyoto, we have to head north, which first takes us on a section of elevated tracks, which gives us a great view of the city, which is even more special in the snow. It's not long before we arrive at our first stop at Nijo Station. It's pretty close to the famous Nijo Castle on the west side of the city, and this actually might be a better place to board the train than Kyoto Station. Nijo is connected to the Tozai line of the Kyoto subway, which means you've got good access from many hotels in the downtown area. And there are plenty of hotels around Nijo itself. Nijo is also much less busy than Kyoto Station in the morning, which can turn into a bit of a rugby scrum during the rush hour. So let's talk about today's route and why this is the best way of getting to Amanohashidate. After the stop at Nijo, we're heading up to Kamioka, Sonobe and Ayabe before reaching Fukuchiyama, after which there are stops at Oe and Miyazu before finally arriving at Amanohashidate. Now, the Hashidate Limited Express runs 5 times a day from Kyoto, taking about 2 hours to cover the 124-kilometre journey. As I mentioned before, this is the first Hashidate service of the day, and after leaving at 8:38, the scheduled arrival time at Amanohashidate is 10:40. Some of you might say, hey Andrew, 10:40 is a bit late, isn't it? Don't they have an earlier train? Well, they do, but it's not direct, so you need to transfer at Fukuchiyama. It'll still take just about 2 hours, but you may not like the idea of transferring trains, especially if you have to faff around with luggage. Much better to take one train and be done. Alternatively, there's a bus with a similar schedule that's cheaper, but then if you clicked on this video, you probably want to take the train, don't you? Well, me too. Of course, there's the question of people coming from Osaka. There aren't any direct trains from there, so either transfer at Fukuchiyama or just come to Kyoto and take this train. It's by far the smoothest way, and if you stay close to Kyoto or Nijo Station, you've got plenty of time for breakfast before boarding. One of the great things about taking a limited express through the countryside is the chance to admire lots of older, more traditional looking Japanese houses. This route is no exception. I always take some time to sit back and imagine what it would be like to live out here. It's also fun because you get more of a sense of how travel was before the Shinkansen arrived. You'll see the odd businessman off to some company in a remote location, locals returning home from a trip to the big city, as well as the tourists. For me, this is the best of slow travel in Japan. Anyway, it's time to have a look around. Like with most limited expresses, you've got a reclining seat complete with drop-down table, so you can pretend to do something resembling work for a YouTube video. But wait, there's an additional tiny table hiding in the armrest for a good place to put your coffee, just like you get in the green car on the Shinkansen. Although this morning I went for some hojicha instead. If you bring some breakfast to eat on board, pro tip for you, be sure to get rid of your rubbish before getting off, or you'll be hauling it around all day looking for a non-existent trash bin. Apart from the fact that they recline, there's not much more to say about the standard seats on this train, other than if you want access to a power outlet, you'll need to sit in the rows at the front or the rear, where you get this dinky little table too. Those of you riding in the green car get a power outlet in your seat, as well as the obligatory footrest and the bigger, fancier seat. I thought that bathroom facilities might be pretty standard for a Limited Express, or so I thought until I found the accessible toilet. It has this strange washroom area that feels like it's a part of the corridor, even with the curtain drawn. Over in the toilet itself there's everything you'd expect, including a baby change shelf with a seatbelt for the baby, which is most definitely required because trains like this get really bumpy at times. Coming up to Ayabe, the train staff announces that the front 4 cars are going to get uncoupled, with the rear cars making it the Maizuru Limited Express, leaving us that goes on to Nishi Maizuru. There's a short wait while this happens, and I'm pretty sure you can go out and watch the uncoupling. As it was still rather cold, I gave it a miss on this trip, but to make up for it, here's some footage of the coupling of the Sunrise Express instead. Now, during the stop at Ayabe, I noticed that the departure board said we were 35 minutes late thanks to slower running in the snow, and then later on board they announced it was actually a 40-minute delay. I'm pretty sure that the bus wouldn't have been on time today either, and as I'm not in a big hurry or anything, it's time to sit back and relax. Of course, one of the major attractions of taking this train is the gorgeous scenery along the route. Mountains are never too far out of sight, there are some spectacular river crossings and a few close brushes with snow-capped forests. This section of track outside Sonobe that runs alongside the river was one of my favourites. But for the trip's major highlight though, you'll need to be sat on the right hand side and pay attention once the train guard announces the approach to Fukuchiyama. Just a minute or so before arriving, you'll see Fukuchiyama Castle towering above the river. Before we get to Amanohashidate, let's talk about the ticket and pass options for riding this train. For a round trip from Kyoto, you'll need to fork out 10,400 yen. This is quite expensive, especially when you compare it to the cost of some passes offered by JR West that include this train. The Kansai Wide Area Pass, for example, only costs a little more at 12,000 yen, and the Kansai Hiroshima Pass is only a bit more at 17,000 yen. Since these passes last for 5 days, it's pretty much a no-brainer to get one, as it's easy to make them pay off by only doing just one more journey on another day. If you're using a national JR Pass, lucky you, but unlike the other passes I just mentioned, you'll need to pay a line charge after Fukuchiyama because the train goes onto the Kyoto Tango Railway, which isn't covered for you. So just make sure you have some cash on hand, as you'll need to pay this on the train. It's not far to go now, but when we stopped at Oe, not only could we see just how much snowfall there'd been overnight, but one of the wonderfully decorated local trains up here. There are actually several brilliant sightseeing trains in the area run by Willow Trains, and I'd recommend checking them out, especially if you're looking for a unique experience when you're staying in Amanohashidate. I've put the link in the description. There's our first glimpse of the sea, so you know we're almost there, and sure enough, here we are arriving at Amanohashidate. I hope you've enjoyed the ride with me today. If you've got any questions about the train, leave them in the comments, and if you're planning a trip to Amanohashidate, you'll probably want to use one of JR West's regional passes, so check out this video up here. See ya!